Wow, there's a lot of people here. Hello, everyone. Let me shut this door back here. I recognize some of your faces already.
Hello.
Hello. Let me just shut this door. We'll just take a couple minutes to let everybody else, or let whoever is going to join. But thank you for being here. This is really fun for us to see you all and to see some of your kids. So many familiar faces. We just wrapped up one of the most intense weeks of our lives here at American Heritage Worldwide. Afwas, I see here. Say something, Afwa, so that they see who you are.
Hi, everyone. It's exciting. I can't believe how many people are online. Wow. That's a lot.
Great. I actually don't even know what our max is. I think it's 250. So
Let's see if we can reach it. That'd be good.
We're doing okay right now.
Yeah.
We're recording this. So if we need to have, for those families who aren't with us, they can watch it later. So it's all being recorded. Anyway, I was saying we just kind of wrapped up a big week. We did, for the very first time ever, we had a youth retreat for our worldwide students. And we invited students who in our middle and high school Power Hour program first. And then we invited our middle and high school AHS online students, which is kind of the graduation from, for many families, from Power Hour to something that's accredited, where they want credit and they want to get a grade and have a transcript and graduate from American Heritage School. And then we invited our AHS on campus middle and high school students, and we had 170 plus students here on campus all week. And after that Wednesday closing, which was just a huge success, it was really, really a special experience. And I see some faces here of parents who I know had their children there. And we want to make it accessible. We made it as accessible as we possibly could, and as affordable as we possibly could. And it was fun to see some of your kids there and get to know them face to face, and they'd come up and give us big hugs because they see us all year long on Power Hour. And then we finally got to see them in person. So it was a real treat for us, as busy as we were, making sure that we kept 170 plus students safe and having fun and having meaningful experiences and engaged all week. It was such a bright spot in my in my life as the director of American Heritage Worldwide. Then yesterday, as if that wasn't enough, I took 38 of the students who wanted to stick around and hike Temp. Are you there? Did I lose you?
Homeschoolers, it was amazing. Just the spirit that was there, just the way they behaved, the way they were able to interact with adults, I was blown away. And you could definitely tell just how they carried themselves. So I just want to say kudos to all you parents, the ones that had their children here. Amazing. And I'm so grateful that I was able to be with some of your children. They were amazing. And we hope we can make it bigger and better next year. So as we wait for Peter, I'd like to, because people still hear me. It's weird because I can't. Okay, let me see something.
I'm back, Afwa.
Yeah, I'm dribbling away, just chatting. Oh, great. Thank you.
I'm actually going to move back to my office.
Oh, okay.
I just moved into I wasn't getting good reception in there, but I've just moved to a new space and there's nothing behind me, and so it looks kind of boring. So I thought that would be a better spot, but it didn't. Something was wrong with the internet in there.
Right. This is my ultimate joy, being on the beach somewhere with palm trees. It's not actually so, but that's my dream. Ultimate goal.
Well, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. We have several families here, and I know your time is you know, you don't have a lot of disposable time. So let's move around, move through this. And what I would like to do is just share for about 45 minutes some of the updates, the things that are changing, the things that have changed, some of the expectations that we have for this year. Helpful information for you and your students. And there'll be some questions that we ask along the way. In fact, I've built a number of polls that that we need to ask so that we know how to some of these bigger changes that we're proposing, maybe even recommending in some cases. We want to make sure that they sit well with you. So thank you for being here, and we're really looking forward to a new year of Power Hour, a very providential service of the school that we feel came about because of COVID, and that we'll keep doing year after year. And it has become a really meaningful service to a lot of families and to a lot of students. Doing that right is really important to us. And so having these kinds of conversations, discussions, and sharing gives us the ability to learn from you in ways that maybe you can't even in a survey. For those who've come on since the beginning, my name's Peter Connect, and I came here to the school, American Heritage School, in 2011. And it's been a real opportunity and blessing for my own family to just be able to work here at the school. And I love being a part of helping a school like American Heritage to make their resources more accessible to families around the world. It's been well, I don't know how to put that into words, but it's been fulfilling, to say the least, for me to just be a part of it. We have a growing team. AFWA is part of that growing team who have come together to support this program and many other programs, and a lot of new curriculum development that will be available in years to come. And a very important piece of helping us become a service that's really a realistic and sustainable alternative to public education, frankly. I think that's, if I had to express that in a sentence, that's how I would say that we really want to be an alternative that is sustainable and effective and realistic for a family who's coming out of public school. A lot of you have been homeschooling for many years, and you have your feet underneath of you, and still the service is meaningful to you. I would just submit that this service, as meaningful it is to you, will be quite a lifeline for families that are coming out of public school who need some structure and who can't be like you, moms who have been or are or can be full-time teachers in the home. And so much of what we're producing in this service is one little example of it. Are tools, resources, and services like the Power Hour service that are meaningful and helpful and impactful and effective resources and services, but they're also affordable. That's another big hurdle for families, the amount of time it takes and how much it costs. And so as a nonprofit school of over 50 years, American Heritage School knows a thing or two about providing a high quality education for as little as they possibly can. And you might say that is way too much, right? Still, it is. Tuition here at the school, it's not accessible. It's $10,000 a year. Well, not that much for K-8, but still thousands of dollars a year. It's only half of the cost of most private school tuition and in the state. And it's because all of the resources needed to build the buildings that we're sitting in right now. And they're all donated by good people who care a lot about the mission of the school and want to make it more available. And so, as expensive as it is to attend here on campus, it would be twice that if we were operating like a typical private school. And so that same philosophy of sacrifice is part of how we're developing the worldwide outreach of American Heritage School, otherwise known as American Heritage Worldwide. And making resources and services as affordable as they possibly can be is really critical to us. We don't have a profit motive. We don't have shareholders to answer to. And so our only goal is to charge what we need to charge in order for it to be self-sustaining. We just have to keep the lights on. And that's why the things that we produce can be so much more affordable than the resources that are commonly available in whatever form of education you're pursuing outside of public education, which is free. We've got to get as close to free as we possibly can, right? While still running a program. And heaven's help is certainly with us. I've seen it countless ways over the years, the people that come and what they're willing to do and how they're willing to work. And you are also just a testament of that too. Especially in a program that's new like this one, I've always felt that the families who come at the beginning of something are kind of led to those programs. As I've worked with them over the years, it's been really obvious to me that many families, most, maybe all families, are moved by the Spirit to do things like this for their family. And if we had the time for all of you to share, which of course we don't have. Oh, is chat open? Yeah, it is. So you can chat. You can chat. Feel free to chat whatever throughout this. You can answer. You can make comments and questions. We're recording this, and that chat's being recorded too. So many times that's very helpful to families that watch the recording of it. They can see the chat along the way. And so as we ask questions, and maybe as some of you make comments, you, of course, everyone can't make a comment, and we'll have to move on in this and try to keep to this time that we have available. So if you don't get a chance to share something and it's just something you really feel would be helpful to us or to others, then go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll go back and read those as well. Anyway, thank you for being here, and thank you for all the work you're doing in your homes to be able to be a part of American Heritage School from wherever you're at in the world. The treat of the retreat that we just had for us was seeing the families come from all parts of the world. We had a family from Abu Dhabi, of all places, here at the retreat, a family from students from Mexico and
Canada.
And Canada. Yeah, that's right. So thank you. Okay, so let's get going. All right. Let me start by introducing you to Afua Daines. She already shared with you a little bit. I don't know what she was sharing while I was getting connectivity again. But Afua is going to be our new Power Hour manager. She's going to support the coaches. She's going to teach one of those classes, kind of like I did last year. She's going to be teaching one of the classes, one of those hours that we have available, and working with training the coaches and making sure that they're producing their outlines the right way, and just making sure that it's a very positive experience for your students, again, even more positive than it was last year. And that's always the goal, year after year, that we make adjustments to the program that are improvements. Sometimes we make adjustments that aren't improvements, and we learn them. We try to fail fast and make changes and adapt. And you all experienced that last year. So if you were with us last year, you saw how quickly we would add something and we would experiment with it. And oh boy, that's falling flat. So let's take it out and let's do something differently. We're going to continue to do that. So hopefully you'll be willing to move with us as we learn. And I think that doing so really makes for a better experience for your students, and that's really the goal. The goal of Power Hour for us, we have some objectives that are really important for you to understand what our objectives are. Our objectives for Power Hour, as well as our middle and high school program, were very similar to our objectives for the retreat that we just had, and that is that they academically speaking, that they gain the tools and resources and skills necessary to be able to make self-education a lifelong pursuit. And for any of who read our mission statement or maybe have been on campus, you know, I'm just pulling that from our mission statement. It's the fourth point of, no, it's not the fourth point. Yeah, it is the fourth point of the mission statement. There's 7 points. And of the kind of the core values of the school. And the fourth one is to develop the skills and knowledge to be able to make self-education a lifelong pursuit. We're in the process of doing that and making the resources available in a way that really encourage students to learn independently It's not that we want to take parents out of the equation of learning. We don't. In fact, we want to bring parents into it in really authentic, meaningful ways that don't require the parent to be a full-time teacher. And you've heard me say that already. Almost a function like a facilitator or a coach in your own home, or maybe even the principal of your home. And that's a sustainable model for a family. The trend in homeschooling, you should know, is 2 years. It's only 2 years. That's the average number of years that a homeschool family makes it in homeschooling. And I'm looking at some pictures here that I know of families that have homeschooled for 8, 9, 10 years. Well, you're on the other end of that spectrum. Many families fall out, within months of starting homeschooling. And if you've homeschooled, you understand that. And you probably could nod your head that you likely agree that it's about a 2-year burnout for homeschooling. So we need to make these resources more accessible. So the objective one, academically speaking, they develop the tools to make self-education a lifelong pursuit. They need to leave these programs, this school, with a greater ability and confidence and desire to learn independently as they go on to be great missionaries and great college students and great professionals and great parents. Above all, that skill will serve them very, very well. There are other objectives that are really important to us and might be a little bit more short-term in their impact, but important nonetheless. And one is to have fun. That's one of our objectives. We want them to come to Power Hour every day and leave feeling like that was really fun. We know that that's really helpful to parents, because if it's fun, what does a parent not have to do? I'm going to shut this door real quick. Somebody answer. Can anybody answer?
You don't have
Keep
to
their
force,
attention.
Keeps their attention. You don't have to. Somebody was saying it. You don't have to
force them.
You don't have to force them, right? You don't have to tell them, hey, make sure you get on Power Hour. They want to be there. And they know what time it is. Again, self-governed learning, really, really important to us.
I really like too that there's another voice besides just mine teaching them. Like they have another person to listen to.
Yes. Very, very good. Thank you. And that's actually one of our objectives, to provide students with a mentor. Mentors are an important piece of American heritage worldwide, all around. But we look for very specific coaches who will mentor, who will be mentors to your students, so that fourth objective, they can develop a deeper conversion. That deepening of conversion and testimony is clearly one of the most important objectives that we have for Power Hour. That we don't just have fun learning academic content. We always, every single time we produce any resource, we are making a connection to faith in an authentic way, and as authentic of a way as we possibly can. Sometimes we might be stretching just a little bit with these little ones, but it's pretty genuine, those connections to gospel principles and values and character. And so that's a really important piece of it as well. In order to do that, many things have to happen, and AFA is going to be managing all of that for us this year. AFA, do you want to just take a minute to introduce yourself and for our families to get to know you?
Absolutely, yes. So welcome everyone. My name is Afua Daines and I have 4 boys. We used to homeschool many moons ago, days when we lived up on a farm, and it was great. We had our own little island. Then my husband got a new job into the city, and so it was different. And so that's where I came into contact with a different private school, which I worked at for 7 years. And then once my oldest son, who's now 17, graduated, we attended American Heritage, which was like 2017. So I've known American Heritage for a while, but this is my first year actually being working here as a learning coach manager. So it's really exciting. And so all my sons are going to be on campus, but we still love homeschooling. And well, homeschooling is all about learning and teaching all the time, isn't it? So I'm excited to be here, and I this last retreat just showed me some of your children on campus. It was great connecting with them, and I'm sure they've told you many stories about me already, and I hope they're all good, but I'm excited for this year that's about to start. So that's a little bit of me anyway. And my parents are from Ghana, in case there was somebody just chatted, Peter, about wanting to, did you see that they wanted to learn more about being able to introduce, Power Hour to Ghana? I was like, no way, in the chat.
We had a student we actually had a student from Ghana. That's why I thought of that country. We had a student from Ghana in Power Hour last year in one of our middle high school Power Hour classes. And so, even though the time difference, that student may have been waking up at 3 a.m. to join Power Hour. I'm not sure what time it was for him, but
Right.
he was there. And
Wow.
as it grows, obviously we'll be able to add hours for time zones that aren't the common time zones for someone living in the United States. But it really will just be driven by those who are interested in the service and who need it, and the numbers, whether we can support it or not. Thank you, Afua. All right, so let me start by sharing. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you the updated schedule, because there have been a few schedules that have gone out this summer as we've been working with our coaches and our new system for recording the teacher videos. And so some things have changed a little bit. Actually, I'm not going to share my screen quite yet. I want to give you a little bit of an update about. No, let's go ahead and do that. Sorry. Okay. So this is the schedule for this year. We are going to have music and not rotate between music and art like we had talked about. And the reason for this is we're recording these teachers here locally. Instead of having Angie recording from Omaha and Nellie recording from Virginia, we're actually having teachers come into a studio that we're building. We're renting a studio right now while we're building our own studio. Really important modification. If we want to produce something that's consistent and professional, we realized we have to have the teachers locally, and we have to bring them into a studio where we can record, where we can control the lighting, where we can make sure it's well focused, and we can control the sets and make sure it's consistent, the wardrobe, and all these things that you can do locally that you can't do from afar. As good as Rule and Nellie and Suzanne and Pablo and all of them were, Angie, we couldn't get it consistent enough. And so we're actually creating content now for Power Hour. Those videos that they watch before Power Hour, we're producing those all here in a studio. Because of that, we're able to produce at such a much higher level that has a shelf life. The content that we're producing really will have a much longer shelf life. Again, very, very important to us, because it's not cheap to produce really high level engaging content. One of the teachers is about halfway through a pregnancy that makes it really difficult for her to record. She was going to teach art. And so we decided, well, we'll just do music first semester and then art second semester. So this is the schedule. We'll do music on Mondays for the first semester, then history, literature, science, geography. Unlike last year, all the coaches are going to be teaching the same thing on each day. And so there won't be any confusion as to what's up for the day, what subject is up for the day. Always Tuesday is going to be history. Always Wednesday will be literature. And then Thursdays will be science. Fridays will be geography. And then music and art will rotate each semester. And I think there's some adjustments to that, maybe at the end. Nope, it looks like we go all the way to the end of the school year. And so can everybody see this whole school year? Is any of my screen being chopped, or any of this being chopped by this window that I'm dragging around? No? Okay.
Right now we can just see, we can see everything from September all the way to May.
Okay, good deal. Okay, we had talked about a unit approach, and I really like the idea of a unit approach. I like the idea of students getting into a subject for a few days. Some people didn't like that idea. It's kind of a personal preference, I suppose. But again, because of our timing and our need to have teachers recording throughout the year and the production schedule, it's not going to work for us to provide content by a unit this year. It will be next year for sure. So we can approach that question again next year. You can see start first day of school, the 23rd. That's this is Foundations Week, where we go through each of the primary methods used in our family school curriculum that have translated into our Power Hour experience. It's the learning framework on which all of this works. It's how we teach here on campus for the last 50 years. And so it's really important for us to have a Foundations Week where we teach these students about the idea of 4Ring and why that's such an important learning framework, and personal notebooks or journals of recording what they're learning, and the his story timeline and some of those other methods and the pedagogy used. So Foundations Week will be the first week of October, and then we'll get into our classes that you can see right here. Starting on the 30th, music. We'll actually cover lessons 1 and 2. Those videos for this content will be posted very soon. We've already recorded through probably middle of September. And so we're just working on the post-production of those videos. Let me share with you an example. This is actually Afwa, is one of our teachers. She's shaking her head because she probably doesn't like to watch herself. But Afwa is going to be teaching what subject, Afwa?
Oh, this one was zoology.
This
one
one was, that's right.
I am in a
geography.
meeting, can't talk to you, okay? So we're going to the bank first and then to.
Okay, so you're teaching geography, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. But this was a test that we did a few months ago, and it was with a zoology lesson plan. So
and I'm totally better now. Okay, I'm just having you know.
Let me share with you an example of this. All right, this is Afwa in our test, and yeah, she is totally better, but she did a pretty good job in her test. This will just give you and your students an example of how things are changing and how things are evolving with the production quality or production level of these videos.
Hi, welcome to Zoology. You're going to love this unit because, wow, animals are amazing. But first, I want to talk to you about science. Science is a way for us to look for truth. Science is all around us every day. We can find science in trees, animals, the sky, even in people. During our lesson, I want you to think about how science is around you.
So there's the research video, right? Everybody's familiar with that. And then we end the research video and
they were scientists. This year, we're going to be scientists too. We're going to learn that science is a study that helps us seek truth.
And then they'll have a distinct cut where they move into the reasoning video.
How old is science? Science has been around since the creation of worlds. In the Pearl of Great Price, Moses chapter 2 tells us about when the earth was made. Let's read it together and see what kinds of science were used. In verses 3 to 5, it says, "And I, God, said, let there be light, and there was light. And I, God, divided the light from the darkness, and I, God, called the light day, and the darkness I called night." So God created light and made it separate from the darkness. This kind of science is called physics. Verse 7 says, "And I, God, made the firmament and divided."
And of course, there's the reasoning section that you're familiar with, and we had lots of B-roll and color and little video footage like you see
"The
here.
creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after."
And then, as you know, let's see, I think it's 8-minute mark. Yeah.
Example of the use of science. Okay, now let's do an activity. Remember the different kinds of sciences that Heavenly Father and Jesus used to make.
We won't watch any more of that. I think you get the idea. Again, well lit, The focus is perfect. The frame is really good. The set isn't distracting. It's very simple. It's very clean. It's a very bright set. And that's what we're really shooting for in all of the videos that we're producing. Now, you notice this video is only 10 minutes long. And I wanted to cover and help you understand why this is the case, so that you could have a better understanding of, oh, I got to show this to you too. Can I just show you one more thing about this video? We're not just recording it for Latter-day Saints anymore. We really want to make these videos available to families of every faith. Like, we want to create a gathering place for every family and every faith. And the only way to do that is if when we're scripting these lessons, and we are scripting them, Afua is not thinking up this content on the fly. She's actually reading a teleprompter. And so it's a very well drafted script of a lesson. We know every word that's coming in. And there's 3 different levels. The one that she was recording there was for a 3rd, 4th grade level. There's actually a kindergarten level now, a 3rd grade level, and a 7th grade level for our videos that we're recording. But we're not just doing them for Latter-day Saints. We're doing a version for interfaith, a broadly Christian version of this content. And then we're doing a version that is very just character and value focused. And I'll get to why we're doing that here in a little bit, but it's a really exciting project. And you'll see how we do that in this example.
Here's an interesting question. How old is science? Science has been around since the creation of worlds. In the Pearl of Great Price, Moses chapter 2 tells us about when the earth was made. Let's read it together and see what kinds of science were used. In verses 3 to 5, it says, "And I, God, said, let there be light, and there was light." Here's an interesting question. How old is science? Science has been around since the creation of worlds. In Genesis chapter 1, we learn about the creation of the earth. Let's read it together and see what kinds of science were used. In verses 3 and 4, it says, "And God said, let there be." Here's an interesting question. How old is science? Science has been around since the beginning of the universe. In our universe, we have light and we have darkness. Okay, now
Okay, that's enough. I won't. Afua was like cringing
Oh
over
my
here.
gosh.
Are you okay, Afua?
Yeah, recovering.
But you get the idea. The reason we're doing that is because the project that is probably first and foremost in our mind is that everything that we're producing, everything that we are working on, all the curriculum that we're developing, that it be available and functional for what we're calling family education centers. And this is something you're going to hear a lot more over the next couple of years. And it's the thing that I'm just the most excited about, because I think that it's the missing piece, the piece that makes it sustainable long-term for families. We can give them excellent content like you just saw. We can put it on a platform, which we are developing. We're creating our own learning management system. We can put it on a really engaging and inventive and innovative learning platform that children, when they get on to learn content, you'll have to pull them off of it. And we can let them explore as deep as they want to go. And they get to choose. If they want to go deeper into one concept, they can. And they'll get points for it. And they'll complete lessons based on their exploration and their own journey. It's called the My Path learning platform that we're developing. And that's wonderful, right? That's all an improvement from where we're at right now. Excellent content and consistent and on an engaging, experience-based kind of learning platform. But it's not enough still. What we're producing is all of the pieces, and we have a little test that we're running up in Salt Lake right now. Some of you may have heard about the announcement of American Heritage School of a church that was donated by the church. It's kitty corner to the conference center. You can actually see the temple from the corner of the property. And in this location in Salt Lake City, we will have the very first concept of what we're calling a family education center, a place where families can come together and educate their own together in meaningful ways that are, and to do the things there that you have a hard time doing over Zoom, projects, little competitions, productions, labs, devotionals, and I mean, there's just so many things that that a gathering, the power of a gathering, is an important piece that we can't replicate online. We do the very best we can. In fact, a lot of those things I just named, we try to do them the best we can during Power Hour. But really, what we're excited to do is create a service that that we could hand to any group of 10 to 15 families in Omaha and Ghana, wherever it's at, right? And they could gather. They could gather in a church close to them. Maybe one of our churches one day, right? Wouldn't that be great? If not, in a house or a rented facility. And so we're developing all of the resources, all the software, the curriculum, the employee handbooks, the governing documents, the operations documents, everything that a cooperative or a commonwealth or just an organized group of people would need to have their success, have their little version of American heritage in their area. And so that's why it's so important that we produce this content this way. And it's also why it's so important that we produce less content ourselves. Let me just share with you a little bit of a vision of this learning platform that I talked about, so you can see why the videos are less, because a lot of you will probably say 10 minutes is not long enough. And I don't think it is long enough either. But it's going to have to be long enough this year, because we're in the middle of developing something for a later time, not just for this year, but something for 10 years and 20 years down the road. And I have to give you a little bit of a vision for how the content we're producing right now, that video that you just watched of AFWA, why are we producing that at 10-minute lengths instead of 25 or 30 minutes like we did last year? In order to do that, I have to show you I have to show you a little bit more about this learning platform. Okay. When a student goes into a course in the future, now this will launch to all of you. It's very likely that this will be, I don't want to say free, but it might just be free for all of our existing families for that first year, and highly discounted after that for all of our existing families, because in 2023, in the fall of 2023, we'll release this piece of software. It'll have a really nice dashboard for students. Students will log in, even as young as kindergarten. They'll see their own dashboard. They'll see a real high level view of the courses that they have. It'll be very, attractive to those various ages, and very simple to navigate. They'll click on a course that's up for the day, and they'll go to a map like this. This is just this is just an illustration. So this is not what it is. This is just to illustrate the idea for the software developers. But they'll come into a course and they'll see required stops. They'll also see optional stops of the units of that course. So let's say they're just getting started. Maybe this whole image will be blacked out, or not blacked out, but grayscale. And as they complete these units, it'll fill in with color. And they're starting off, so only this one is unlocked. And so they go into Civil War and they see another learning map. And this path of learning is kind of an underlying theme of the course, that it's an adventure, right? They're moving down a path and they're completing this path and they're earning points. And there's always a dial or something that shows them how much they've completed and how much more they have to finish that course or that unit or that lesson. But let's say they're studying in the Civil War unit. If you were to look at our curriculum right now, we have these lessons. We have a lesson on slavery, a sad history, the Underground Railroad, President Lincoln in the Civil War. We don't have these lessons right now, but we're going to create them so that if a student wants to dive into the Civil War battles a little bit deeper, they can. If they're interested in Abraham Lincoln and his boyhood, they can explore there. But let's say this is the next lesson up and they just completed Slavery, a Sad History, and now they're learning about the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman. This is how they're going to access content in a couple more years. It's going to take some time. This piece of software is a big project. It's a 2-year project just to get the base level of this learning management system available to you. and very expensive as well. And all donated. And that's one of the reasons I brought that up at the beginning, is I want you to know that a donor donated all the money to build this learning platform. And it's millions of dollars, I will say, just to build the platform. That's not the curriculum. We're in the middle of a $21 million capital campaign for American Heritage Worldwide. And we're successfully into it already, very successfully. And those funds will be used to make, those are the funds that we will be using in order to make this as affordable as we possibly can, but not just as affordable, but as attractive, as engaging, and as effective as it possibly can. Something that really does pull families out of public school. We don't want to push families out of public school, but for reasons of fear, and because, well, the government and politics and agendas and all those things are doing that for us already, right? So that'll happen, but we don't really want families coming out of fear. We want families coming because they've heard and they've seen that the outcomes are just better. And so it pulls them into it because it's actually a better way to learn. And I know you could all talk to that for at length of why it's better, but they have to be able to see it through a different lens. And so as we develop this content, you can see these 3 videos right here: research, reason, relate. They'll come in, they'll do a fun review game. There are many wonderful review games. We don't need to develop that technology, but they'll have a little game that they start with that helps them review concepts that they've already learned. Then they'll go on to a research video. That research video is about 5 to 6 minutes long, just like what you saw. And then as they move along with their avatar or their vehicle, whatever they've built with the points that they've earned, and they've enhanced it as they've earned more points, then they'll go down this path. And every once in a while, they'll see an optional learning path where they'll be able to access these explore modules. And I know that there's some spelling errors here, and I haven't taken the time to go in and fix it, readers and spirituals. But if they want to go read this, Harriet Follows the Lord, or watch this video, or listen to these Negro spirituals, then they can. And if they do, they'll earn points toward the completion of this lesson. And then they move on to the reasoning video. And this is a 1 to 2 minute, this is a short, quick, powerful connection to a gospel principle, or to a principle of Christianity, or to a principle of character. If we're studying the lesson in zoology on metamorphosis, for example, they might listen to the story of Alma the Younger here, right, in the reasoning section. But in the Christian version of this, in the all Christian version of this, I shouldn't say Christian because we're Christian. In the all Christian version of this, they might read a story about Paul, and about Saul becoming Paul, right, and his metamorphosis. And in the character version, they might listen to a little video, a story about Benjamin Franklin, and how he was not, a supporter of democracy as we know it today initially. And he had a metamorphosis as well. And so this content will change based on who's accessing and what version they want to see. One day we'll have a Muslim version. We'll have a Jewish version. And it's very, very simple for us to do that because of the way that we're developing it. I'm actually really excited for my kids to be able to learn from those other lenses, from those other faith perspectives. Anyway, I won't go on too long. I could talk at length about, well, I have to share with you one more thing. Anyway, the point of this all, sorry, I'm a little ADD. So I have these ideas and it's hard for me to come back. But the reason we got into this in the first place is I was trying to help you understand why we're producing 10-minute videos. We have to produce 10-minute videos because if we didn't produce 10-minute videos, we would have way too much content in here. If we said if we said to a second grade level student that it was required for them to watch 25 minutes of video instruction, it wouldn't give them any ability to go learn on their own. One of the primary objectives of all of this, develop the skills and the knowledge to be able to make self-education a lifelong pursuit. We have to give them, in order to develop that skill, they have to have the time to go explore on their own. And so we have to produce less in order to give them more time to do their optional learning, to be able to choose what they want to dive in deeper. And I'm only showing 4 examples here. Lessons will grow and grow and grow. You'll even be able to add on to them in your own version. And you can make those public and it'll go into a review queue and we can check them and say, yeah, that's a great one. Let's add that. And it'll make a resource that you add to this path available to all the families. And so it'll be very modular in its build and very customizable. This will be a place where they can click on it and it will tie them with another student that's online right then. If video sharing is selected in their profile for that student by the parent, then their video will turn on and they'll be able to chat back and forth and answer a question that we present to them. There'll be hundreds of students. We'll publish a calendar of every class, when it starts. If they want a live experience with another student, when they click on this, then they'll just know when to start. They'll just have to know when to start. And invariably, when they get to this section, there will be other students there too. They click on these explore modules, they go to them, they watch content. We don't have to produce everything.
Or Minty was the fifth of 9 children. 2 of Minty's older sisters were sold to a chain gang. Even as a small child, Minty was hired out to different owners who subjected her to whippings and punishment.
This is a wonderful video on Harriet Tubman's life. We don't have to produce it. We can just point them to it. You could do the exact same thing. If you know of a resource or there was a new general conference talk and it goes perfectly with the relate that we're sharing, then you could add a little path and you could add your own explore module for your family, for your students, and you could make it public, or you could mark it as public. It goes to our review queue, we review it, and maybe it becomes a part of this lesson as another optional module. Again, another relate video. It has to be short. It's short and sweet and powerful, 1 to 2 minutes. And then there's an online student notebook for readers, writers at levels 2 and above that will have access to this option in the lesson plan. This is probably my favorite one of all of them. Some of you know about this already because we use this in family school, but most of you don't. This is called the secret admirer icon. And anytime a student sees the secret admirer icon, whatever it ends up being, they'll know that this is a message from their mom or dad or their grandma or grandpa or a friend, but it's something directed toward them. And in this particular lesson, maybe in the relate section or the reasoning section, you could see us talking about 2 Nephi 26:33, where it talks about all things being alike unto God, all things bond and free, white and black, male and female. And we could send a message, right? We can send a text. We knew what lesson they finished before this. And when they finished that lesson, we could shoot off a text to all the parents on record that just says, hey, next lesson up is about Harriet Tubman's life. Would you take a minute to share a message with Olivia, whatever student that is, it'll pull from the database, about what you feel about this scripture and how Heavenly Father feels about black and white, bond and free, male and female. And there's a link in their text, it pulls up their camera, they record a quick message, they press upload, and that message goes right into this lesson. And so mom and dad and whoever wants to contribute to this content, students can be connected with parents in really meaningful and powerful ways without mom having to spend, an hour preparing a lesson and delivering that lesson, and still be connected with that student. At the end of the lesson, another important way that we connect students and parents with content, and parents become more than an accountant with content, is we serve them up every lesson. We'll serve them up with a prompting question. After they finish this summative quiz at the end, it'll fire off a text. Hey, Olivia just finished this lesson on Harriet Tubman. You might ask her to tell you a little bit about her experience growing up as a child. Oh, by the way, she scored 90% on her quiz. That's the kind of text message that every student, every parent on record will receive after a student completes a lesson. This is in the future, right? In a couple of years. And it gives mom, dad a question when they're driving to practice, soccer practice or piano lessons, or sitting around the dinner table, or getting ready for their come follow me discussion, or kneeling down for family prayer. There's a question right there. If there's any time available in the moments, they can connect with the student about that content. Tell me more about Harriet Tubman. Oh, I heard you learned about Bulletproof George Washington. Tell me more about that experience. And it will even give the parent a link in that text to go back and listen to that short video that the student watched if they want to watch that video as well. Okay, this has very little to do with Power Hour, right? But I felt like it was really important to kind of frame up we are working towards, so that you would understand why we're producing content a little bit differently this year. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more of a vision of where American Heritage Worldwide is going with the content that we're producing. We're not just producing it for Power Hour. We're producing it for every child, whether they can access Power Hour or not. And not even just families of our faith, but families of all faiths. Any family who wants something that's centered on Christ or in character. And so it'll require us to produce a little bit differently this year. I think, this is my personal feeling, in the scriptures, when it talks about the Church of the Lamb, I really feel like that is every church, Christian faith, that is trying to bring people closer to Christ, and that will all have to be together in the latter days. We're producing a program that doesn't just lift Latter-day Saint families, but gives a tool to every Latter-day Saint family that they can share with any member of their community and say, come with us, come to our little gathering place, come to our family education center. And they can come, they can have these genuine experiences together, and they can learn the way that they want to learn, the way that they need to learn. And you don't need to say, oh, don't worry about that scripture in the Book of Mormon or that quote from Joseph Smith. It's okay, you probably agree with it anyway. Guess what? They're not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole if it talks about Joseph Smith and if it has a scripture from the Book of Mormon. So we have to meet them where they're at and invite them into our gathering place so that they can be lifted as a community or as a family, and so that it can together lift a community. All right, let me look at my agenda real quick. Sorry to go on and on that. I'm just a little bit excited about it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So it's starting in fall of 2023. And so is this taking the place of the family school? Is this what the kids will be doing? And then there will be a Power Hour on top of that of like, oh, what did you do in the activity? And then there's, Power Hour for those who want to, or trying to figure out where does it fit in with what you currently have today?
Such a great question. Such a really good, I'm so glad you asked that question, because it does help you to understand, the answer will help you to understand what's happening with family school. Family school will always be the homeschool product for mothers who want to teach their children, and many will. And in fact, what I just showed you actually leads a lot more families to homeschool than anything. Some homeschoolers will look at that and say, I need that, right? I really need that because I'm at that 2-year burnout and I don't think I can make it any longer. Great, but it's student-led. What I just showed you is a highly student facilitated, student-led experience. It's not traditional homeschooling. But many families will want that and need that. That's what they want to do. They want to prepare that lesson and they want to deliver that content to their students. And there are some really important outcomes that happen there that we could never even approach. And so we won't take anything away from family school. Family school will always be the traditional kind of parent-led homeschool resource. This is the student-led homeschool resource that I just showed you, and they'll work together. And you could see a parent saying, you know what, this week, guys, you're going to use the student-led version because I'm not feeling well, or I just had a baby, or whatever it is, right? Well, if you just had a baby, maybe it's a month, right? Or maybe it's 2 months. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I'll just stop talking there. To each their own, right? But it does, they work together, the parent-led resource and the student-led resource. I've just shared with you the vision for a student-led resource. Forever, up until this point, we've only had a parent-led resource, but most parents are failing at that after a couple of years. It's just too much. As simple as those lessons are to follow, it still takes time to prepare. It still obviously takes time to deliver. And some parents just find themselves in a period of life where they just can't do that. And so we have to make it more sustainable long-term by producing a student-led companion. They work together. The Power Hour experience, that's something that you throw on top of all of this. You could see a student learning together with their family using the parent-led resource and then coming together for Power Hour to have a discussion, right? What did you learn? What did you love? Let's do a competition. Let's have a quiz. Let's exercise with Coach Yehosh. Let's do all these fun things together and create this social component that at minimum you can participate in if you don't have a local family education center that you can go to and do the same thing. So Power Hour will be on top of this family-led and the student-led experience. However they choose to learn the content, then they go to Power Hour every day for an hour, right? And we talk about what we learned. And what optional learning module did you did you learn from? They won't have learned the same things when we come to Power Hour in 2 years, right? They'll have kind of explored on their own different things, and they'll have different things to share. Oh, I love this. I love that. Oh, that's exciting. I didn't learn about that. And so you can kind of see how this will evolve over a couple of years. It does have huge impact. It does have huge implications in how we develop content today. And so we want to be good stewards of the money that's been donated. And we want to make sure that everything we're producing today really has in mind how students will learn independently and how they'll learn in the Family Education Center in 2 or 10 years. And of course, we can't have all that insight and that foresight, but we're trying to think as far down the road as we possibly can. And so this year, when they log on before Power Hour, they're going to watch a 10-minute video. I'm going to propose something here, not propose, but throw out an idea about something that you can all answer as in the form of a poll. In fact, that's a good segue into this part of the conversation. Is the actual experience that they're having in Power Hour. For starters, we want to shorten. We felt like as coaches last year that we always got to the end and we didn't get to a few things that we really wanted to cover. And we felt like the impact of Coach Yehosh was really in the front end of Coach Yehosh. It was in the message that he shared. It was in the song that he sang. And it was in exercising for a couple minutes, but it didn't have to be 8 minutes of exercise. It just had to be enough to get them up and moving and ready for class. And we feel like we can do that really effectively in 5 to 6 minutes. And so we're recommending to have Coach Yehosh's Start Right video be 5 to 6 minutes instead of 10 to 11 minutes like it was last year. As I've explained that to you, I'm going to just launch a poll here that you can answer. I'm just curious how you feel about that. Go ahead and just answer that poll. And it's all anonymous, so you can answer however you can answer honestly. And I'll just give a few more seconds for you to answer before I end the poll. Okay, there's enough data here. Let me share the results. So you can see it's only about 10% of you don't like it. You like the longer Start Right. And so this is something that we'll definitely do, right? We'll definitely be shortening them. You're okay either way. More of you like it than don't like it. So that's kind of how we evaluate these kinds of things. Another thing that we're going to do a little bit differently, let me move on to the next question here. Where are they? One second. Let me just get logged into my account right here, because that's not the most important one to ask today. I really wanted to ask. I created these polls.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
My poll did not show up, so I couldn't answer the question. Is there something I'm supposed to do?
Oh, it's okay. It was probably behind a window that you had on your screen, and it was just a quick question that you could have answered about how you felt about shorter Power Hours.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Well, there are a few other questions that I really need to ask and get your insight on. There's one that's really important. Boy, where is this? It's not showing it to me. I created a bunch of polls before this and it only showed me that first one.
Peter,
We're going to have to ask after. I'm going to have to just send you an email and have you answer these questions in an email. But I'll explain to you what we're thinking. Molly, go ahead.
people are asking about the journals, And my understanding was they're available in the print store. However, people are having trouble finding them. So at one point or another, can you maybe on your
Yeah.
screen show how to get in there and order that?
We haven't even created them yet, Molly. It's an idea that we had to create a journal that the coaches could use to reference for the students, and we'll create it. We just haven't had time to. I haven't had a second. Neither has Kristen to help me design it. We've talked about it, but we just haven't been able to execute it.
Good to
So
know.
when we have it available in Alpha Graphics, we'll be selling it. We'll send a link out to all the Power Hour families, and it will be, unfortunately, a couple of weeks into Power Hour before they can, well, not before they can order it, but before they would get it. Good
Okay,
question.
perfect.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing is, because the videos are shorter, 10 minutes, when we did Power Hour, and I saw, where did she go? Devereaux, it's Natalie DeVore. Natalie, are you here, Natalie, still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. And I'm sure there are others. Hi, Natalie. Good to see you again.
Hello, good to see you.
So Natalie was with us when we started Power Hour, and we just did our first like experiment, right? We didn't charge anything. We were just like, hey, if you want to jump on a Power Hour, it's COVID, come and join us. And she had her children there, and it was really a fun experiment. But if you remember that year, Natalie, we watched the video together, and then we discussed it for like 5 minutes, which wasn't a long discussion, right? But they had a blast, and then we did a quiz, and it seemed to be a really uplifting hour. Then the next year that most of you have experienced, we had them watch the video beforehand, which is really what we want them to do. We really do want them to watch the video beforehand, because that's their whole, do something to prepare on your own independently and then come to class prepared. Because it's so short, because it's just a 10-minute video, I was just wondering how you felt if we should show those during Power Hour. About half the students watched them before class, and the other half didn't. That was our assumption from Kahoot quizzes to participation, and just simply asking them, did you watch it? Many of the students didn't. 50% of the students didn't even watch the video before they came to class. Well, I don't want to disadvantage the students who did watch the video before class and do it the way that we're really hoping that they develop in order to prepare for Power Hour by changing it. But I do wonder if there's some gains there by sharing that 10-minute kind of the required portion of the lesson during Power Hour, and how you feel about that. And I think the best way to do this would just be, I'm going to invite Natalie to just share what she thinks, but it's very anecdotal, right? It's just that she's experienced both of them. And then maybe in your chat, you could just share how you feel about that idea. And then I'll follow up this orientation with a survey that you can answer, and we'll get the statistically significant data from you after this meeting. Sometime later today, I'll send a survey out to you. Again, the video is about 10 minutes. And so the question is, should we add that to Power Hour, making the discussion more look like this? So let me share with you the outline of how we prepare for Power Hour each day. It looks a little bit like, I think I closed it. Let me just go to my recent, 1 second. Nope, that's not what I need. That's my agenda for you right now. This is how that would look. They start with the Start Right video. It's 5 to 6 minutes long. Coach Yahosh, same as always. We have prayer. This year, we're thinking about doing a little Seize the Day segment. That's about 3 to 4 minutes. And we feel like that will be really fun, because those are really, really fun lessons. And sometimes they're really fun, goofy, and sometimes they're historically significant. Sometimes they're highlighting really important people, our prophets, our seasons, our holidays. And we feel like that would be a really fun way to start, that we could manage in a way that's consistent and successful throughout the year. Then this is the question: do we watch the lesson video for 10 minutes and then discuss with our, this is how our Power Hour coaches, if you've ever wondered how they prepare a list of ideas and questions and little videos that they could share, activities, competitions for each of the sections: research, reason, and relate. Now, they don't get to all of this. They never do. But they have little personal stories that they might share related to that lesson, videos that they might share, competitions, search and find, and videos that they're watching. But this gives us 25 minutes to discuss. And then, of course, we end with a coach's challenge and a Kahoot quiz. Sometimes we share Flipgrid examples of some of their record assignments that they've completed. But if you add all that time up, that's how that would look. That's how that would look for Power Hour if we included the discussion or the video in the lesson. This would change to 35 minutes. That would be the difference. If we decide not to watch it, that's how our lesson would be. That's the only change. We have a little bit more time for discussion. So when you see that survey, just know those are the different. That's the difference. With or without the video, we'd have about a 25-minute discussion or a 35-minute discussion. Natalie, what do you think about that, having experienced both of those different methods?
So I don't know how helpful I'll be because two of my kids, it worked way better to have in class. Like it's a fight to get them to watch the video beforehand. But then the other two love to watch it beforehand and do the like supplemental stuff and print it out and do all that before class. So even in my own house, we're a little split on that idea as well. And part of our hard thing is we're in Arizona, so our time for Power Hour changes throughout the year because we stay the same time. So we're 8 a.m. at first, and then we switch to 9 a.m. So when it's earlier, my kids don't watch them, but when it's later, they have time to. So there were things that I liked about watching them. They engaged more when we watched it during Power Hour versus me trying to get them to watch it. Sorry, I have a newborn on my lap.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
So I don't know how helpful that answer is. It seems like all the comments kind of went the same way I did. Like they either like it or don't like it. So I guess it depends on your kid.
I just found the polls. I just found them all. Thank you, Natalie. Actually, your answer was really helpful because it was objective. If you didn't say that, what you said, if you didn't say that you liked both, then it could have come across as biased.
I have a question just really fast.
Yeah, yep.
Sorry, I'm just wondering how including the video in the Power Hour will affect those who want to parent lead the lesson.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it would just be a different teacher, right? A different teacher sharing perhaps some things differently than what you've shared. 10 minutes, you know, it sounds like, well, I know you know, because I know your name, Chevy, and you've been around family school for many years. When you teach a lesson, it's a lot more content than you cover. So you pick and choose kind of what you're going to teach. That's what we do too. There's definitely going to be overlap, right? So what we choose is, I'm guarantee you, everything that we choose, there's always going to be a piece that you've chosen too, because what we're doing when we're going into that original family school lesson plan to put together that 10-minute lesson, we're pulling out the things that we're like, okay, that's the 10 minutes that we really, really want to cover. And you're likely going to cover those things too. And so there would definitely be overlap there. Okay, you want me to show you?
Yeah, I guess I meant because if we make it part of the Power Hour instead of separating it out, it's kind of redundant in that respect from a parent-led perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, it would be redundant. There would be overlap, and they would listen to it twice, maybe from obviously from a different perspective or a teacher, but not without its
Peter?
redundancy. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just make a quick comment. I'm sorry. There was an idea in chat that I just thought would be cool to just talk about. They just thought that what if the coach always just played the Power Hour video 10 minutes before? So a kid could log in 10 minutes early and watch it right before Power Hour started.
Oh, interesting. You know,
It would be kind of like
It'd be like
Yep.
prelude music at a meeting.
Right.
So if you want to watch it with your family at breakfast, you can do that. If you didn't get through it in breakfast, the kids that need to jump on, they jump on 10 minutes early and then they just watch it. It's playing. So then the meeting starts right
Yeah.
on the hour. And then those who've watched it at breakfast, they just tune in right at the hours. And those that didn't get a chance, they just tune in 10 minutes early.
That's a great idea. That's a really, really good idea. I love that. Yeah, that'll work. And you can see you don't want it to you can see here that more of you would rather that it didn't steal from the discussion time of Power Hour. So we wouldn't do it otherwise. But I love that you've come up with a solution of how we could do both. That's always the best. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Peter, I have a little input.
Yeah.
I know that the coaches were bumping up one right against the other last year in
Yep.
their power hours. So would they have time to log in 10 minutes early to start a new discussion?
Well, if
And maybe it's asking a lot about the coaches.
Yeah, if we did it the same way we did it last year, they wouldn't. But we're actually doing things quite a bit differently this year. We're only letting coaches coach up to 2 classes, so that the coaches had a really hard time. Jordan and Nate actually aren't coaches this next year, which I know will come to you as a huge disappointment. And I almost didn't want to share it, but I need to let you know that Jordan found another job that's going to work with him. That's the tough thing about hiring these young mentors, right? Which we really want to focus on. We really want to hire these return missionaries that can look to these students, that these students can look up to as, oh, I want to be a missionary like him, or I want to marry a guy like that, or a girl like that, or, that's the kind of EFY counselor kind of personality that we're looking for in our coaches. But they will be more transient because they're looking for full-time jobs after they graduate from college. And their feedback to us was it was really hard for them to keep the energy where they needed it to at some of those later hours. And so we're hiring the same kinds of coaches this year, but we're only going to let them coach 1 to 2 classes each. And so they'll have the energy that they need, and they can start that class earlier. It'll only be a little bit tricky for them if they happen to choose to teach 2 classes and they teach back to back. But we can still manage that with the total number of Zoom accounts that we're managing, even if we have to give them another laptop to start one while the other one is finishing up. They could do that. It would just require more equipment, but there's a way to do it. Yeah, great comment, and there's a solution to that. I should ask this one just in case. We talked about having a little seize the day segment. We like to have something at the beginning that is not related to the content, that is fun. I'm really advocating it, so I'm biasing the survey right now. but I am looking for something that can be consistently done, and that these coaches can manage in a really simple way. That is a fun little element.
I was actually, Peter, thinking that Yahosh was going to incorporate it into his early morning, because I know he's exercising for 6 minutes, but he always had a thought. And so that was something I thought,
Yep, he is. That's a really good point. So Yahosh's
Yeah.
messages that he's sharing are going to also tie in with
The
whatever
season
that
day.
is. And so that's another reason why we would really like to do it, so that we can have some continuity between what Yahosh is sharing and what we share moving into the lesson. Yeah. Well, I'll end it here and share the results, but it seems like most of you like it. Or don't have an opinion on it. So that'll be another one that we can move forward with.
So one thing that I saw people say in the chat, and I know you're doing a lot, so you might not have seen it yet, but just could we add the Pledge of Allegiance to the very beginning? I just think that would be, I would love my kids, because I realize I don't do it with them, and I don't think my kids know the Pledge of Allegiance.
And especially from a school like American Heritage School, right? I mean, it is a part of our on-campus experience, and helping students to gain a love and understanding and appreciation for America and the founding fathers is that's another one of those 7 core tenets of our mission statement. The only reason we haven't done it is because, well, you can probably imagine we have students from other countries, and I'm just trying to think, what would they feel like, or what would their families feel like if every day we started with the Pledge of Allegiance? It's not a high contingency of our Power Hour group, but as it grows, and it's present today. I mean, we have several families. We have at least 20 families that, well, maybe more than that actually, as in including Canada, that aren't in the U.S. They're international families. And what would the families feel if we're starting with the Pledge of
That makes
Allegiance
sense.
every day?
That
Yeah.
makes sense. I was just thinking about my family, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I'll just do it myself.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. That's great. Or maybe it's another prelude, right? Don't come on 2 minutes early if you don't want to hear the Pledge of Allegiance. No, that would be a little insensitive still. Okay. Last
I
couple of
have a
things.
comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that, in my opinion, because I have really young kids that like to join in a lot of conversation. And so I think that if you're going to do the Seize the Day, I think you should have either the 10-minute video or the Seize the Day, not both, because it would take up
Too
that
much
much
time.
more time for children, young children, to be sharing things that they learn. But
Yeah,
that's just because I have very young children that love to share.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Can I
Well,
say
well
something?
said. And we definitely heard that message in the survey that we just posted. And I think what we'll end up doing is using that 10-minute video and just playing it before Power Hour. And then we'll use the Seize the Day 3 to 4 minute segment. It's short. I did it in my classes last year. The ones that I was teaching occasionally last year, I would always add a very short, sometimes it was just a couple minutes, but I would make sure that they're aware of something fun that happened that day in history. And they seem to really enjoy it. Sometimes I would bring things to class, like I'd bring a big dessert tray on National Dessert Day, and I'd just sit there and eat it in front of them. Like, oh boy, I'm having so much fun here today. And they would, oh, why are you eating that? That's not fair. And or I'd have my milkshake or my plate of pizza or whatever it is. Those are the goofy off the wall Seize the Day ones, but there's some others that are really meaningful, right? That are prophets' birthdays and historical events and inventions. And it's just fun. I think it's just fun to tie something in to that day in history. And they seem to always really be engaged with that understanding and learning. Okay, very, very good. Let me share just a couple other short things that I think will be quick, and then we'll have just I have to leave, unfortunately, at 12:30. I have a meeting that I have to go to at 12:30, and so we're not going to have as much time for FAQ as I wanted to have. But
Peter, did you tell us about math and language arts, how we enroll in that?
No, I haven't. It's on my agenda. And math and language arts. Thank you, Nicole. Great. I would have kicked myself if I didn't cover that. Let me look at this agenda really quick.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just all of a sudden
No, that's really good. I skipped over it. I just missed it on my agenda. But let me finish some of the things to do with Power Hour, and then we'll come back to what I'm calling I Master Math and I Lift Language Arts. And when they'll launch soft to you and public later. And Afua, if you don't mind carrying on with this and at least sharing your screen to show them the parent volunteer form that you created. I didn't pull that up before, but you can do that after I leave.
Oh, okay.
Power Hour events calendar. There's two things that we did last year. Social hour. I think we did that every other week. Maybe we did it every week. We didn't start it until later in the year. And then we had these competitions and events that we started doing at the end of the year. Once per month, we did a fun like minute to win it competition, or a spelling bee, or a geography bee, or an essay contest, or whatever it was. We did a kind of a competition that was fun for the kids. I just want to quickly, we don't have time, so I'm just going to throw the polls out there, okay? And you just tell me if we should keep doing them, if you liked it. So we're going to start with social hour. This is where their class met for an hour, and it was led by a parent. And the kids got to just do whatever they wanted to do with a parent's facilitation. Was that helpful? Was it not helpful? I just want to understand how that landed with you last year.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Hey, Levi.
Are we still gonna do the Kahoot?
Oh boy.
I think everybody really likes it.
Yeah, you think? Levi, you know that we could never not do Kahoot. we would have pitchforks. You would all bring pitchforks to class the next day. There'd be grand mutiny on our hands. Yes, we will have Kahoot. I'm going to end this poll so we can move on to the next one. About half of you, yes. Another, 40%, 41% don't have an opinion. And that's kind of how it was utilized. So I think it's definitely something that we continue to do. We might change the cadence on it to every other week, but we'll keep doing it for sure. And then the last one on this poll was the events. Oh yeah, no, this is another one. How often? That would be helpful to know what you feel is the right cadence. I forgot I wrote that poll. This is really helpful, by the way. Thank you for taking the time to do this. You don't have to make mistakes, and you don't have to fail fast sometimes to learn. Sometimes you just have to ask the right questions and let you decide. Of course, everybody, you'll see here, I'll end this poll and share the results. It's not easy to make everybody happy with everything, but every other week and once a month were the highest. So I think every other week feels like the right cadence, given the data that we pulled here on this particular question. Events, studio questions. I don't actually have one for the events. I thought I did. Anyway, why don't you just give me a thumbs up if you felt like, or maybe you can just chat, you love the events, or events were, were dumb or helpful. These were always in the evening.
Peter,
And
could I ask a question?
yeah.
Sorry, it's Nova Noble.
Oh,
so we did the social daily thing with the older class. Is that something that's going to be able to continue? Where they stayed after class to just get to know each other? It wasn't your social hour, it was different.
Yeah, and that had a lot to do with the fact that you were in a Zoom that wasn't picking up with another class afterwards, and
yeah,
it'll be easy to do that next year.
Okay.
Because of how we're moderating the number of classes coaches teach. So yeah, it'll be really easy next year.
As for the older classes, I think they really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I love that too.
Really well.
It was a little different for them, and they just kind of stayed after every day, even.
Every day, and I think they got to know each other really well. And I think that's part of what that retreat, they loved getting to meet after all that time.
I was blown away at how many of those students that came to the retreat from all over the place. You could tell that they really developed relationships, like deep relationships over Zoom, right? Over that year, enough to where their families would make the sacrifice to fly them in or drive from all over the country to be here. And it was really a testament of how effective the Power Hour experience was for those middle high school students. I loved it. I just loved meeting them, and your boy Duncan especially is just, oh man, just such a leader. Love that kid. Okay. Any questions? That's all oh no, math and language arts. Sorry, Nicole, you're going to chime back in here if I didn't at least share with you the developments for I love math, I master math, and I lift language arts. These are the two skills based. You see, we haven't had the skills of academics over the last couple of years, and it's because not everybody, but there are a lot of really good solutions out there, right? Good language arts programs, good math programs. We didn't really feel like that was our place to add to and support families, but in what's coming, if we're really going to effectively pull families out of public school, and that's really what we want to do. We want to give families another viable safety line, right? For their kids in the future in these latter days. And we have to have math and language arts. We just have to do it. And so we're well on our way. Math, in fact, is coming along really, really well. In fact, I think I pulled up I do have it here. I should just at least share my screen and show you the scope and sequence for it. That's the math one. We're building it out with 5 different standards of learning, and these are the standards of learning. And each level has their own, in number sense. For a kindergarten level of math, you can see the number of skills or essential skills that have to be developed in order to master the level. This is not super exciting, and it's not even really innovative. This is just very well vetted, research-based, skills development in math and language arts at each of these levels. We've used a lot of different programs to put the scope and sequence together that we feel really, really good about now. It's how we're developing math that's really going to be exciting. Utilizing the same kind of adventure learning, kind of that my path way of learning, all math will be mastery based. And so as they complete these rungs of these different standards and gain mastery in those levels, they'll move on. So they won't move on until they've mastered those concepts or those essential skills of those standards. And they'll continually be assessed along the way in a cyclical kind of circular review pattern. So if they gain mastery here and then lose it over here, they'll know right away what skill that they need to reinforce. And we'll present them with the content that they need to be able to go back and gain mastery here and close that rung. That content and that information will be available to students in the ways that they need to see it and parents in the way that they need to see it. And so that they're struggling with understanding how to tell time or temperature, you'll know it. We'll know it immediately because of the little assessments, the formative assessments and summative assessments along the way. It's just a brilliant, and it's not innovative because there are some programs out there that are doing it. They just haven't. It needs to be on a platform that a student can also see it, not just a parent. I mean, it's helpful for parents to be able to see the gaps. Most of the times parents don't have any idea where the gaps are. They just know that they're not getting something, right? They're not scoring high enough. We just want students to be able to move through math at the pace that they can. If a level takes 2 years, that's just fine. Level 3 might take them 2 years. That's just fine. As long as they're mastering the concepts and they're not moving forward with gaps in their learning. So that's math, and it's coming along really nicely. It'll be released this next fall as a parent resource to use to teach your own children, not as an independent study or an independent student-led experience. That'll be available the next year. The language arts framework is similar. There are 3 major standards of learning for language arts: reading, written language, and oral language. April, are you on here? April Mendenhall?
She's not. I'm on here if you have any questions about math.
April is the one that's leading the charge, and
I thought she was with the other one.
oh, maybe that's why I remember
Yeah.
seeing her. Yeah, that's right. She was on the other one.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, these are we're still developing the scope and sequence for language. It's huge. Language arts is just, boy, it's a beast. At least I think done right, it's a huge undertaking. Math is one discipline, and it's very linear and sequential. Language arts is a web of disciplines. It's phonics, it's fluency, it's comprehension, it's spelling, it's grammar, it's writing. They're all really critical, and bringing them in at the right point is really important, and how they weave together to create a comprehensive language arts programs. You have great programs out there that are really good handwriting programs, or maybe writing programs, or good grammar programs. What we're developing for language arts is something that can be modular. Like if they just want a reading program, they should be able to take it, or it will be comprehensive for them, and it will be comprehensive for them. So if they want it all together, if they want their language arts, every piece of it, every discipline of language arts together, they will get it. All the little readers, right? All the phonics, flashcards, and as much of it digitized as possible so that it's not expensive. There are great language arts programs out there. I know of many of them, but they're expensive. There's just too much that you have to buy to make it work. And so we want to leverage the very best of education technology available to us, while also providing supporting resources that are, as much as possible, aren't essential, aren't required. But in language arts and math, there will be consumables, right? There will be some consumables that are important, but not embellishing the amount of consumables needed to drive the price up for money's purposes, which is basically every other program out there. There is a profit motive to them. And so the consumables and the supporting resources, they are required in order for a family to be successful. It just gets too expensive. And so where our focus
Peter,
not profits, it has to be done that way. Yeah.
I have a really quick question. Is math and language arts going to be student-led or parent-led, or how is that organized?
Great. It'll initially be parent-led, because that's how we'll test it and refine it. You'll get it for free. As soon as we have it, you'll all get it for free. You'll always have it for free. Even when we convert it to that student-led experience, we'll likely give that to you for free. There might be a small charge when it becomes a student-led experience, but it'll be minimal. It'll be significantly discounted, kind of like what I said with everything else that we're developing on that MyPath learning platform. But as a parent resource, it will all be free. And you'll have a system where you can go in and say, hey, this was just wrong. There's a mistake here. Or I really love this one. Or I have another idea for how you could enhance this particular lesson. And so we don't want to make it a student-led resource until it's at least gone through a few hundred families who've been able to refine it and help us improve it. Because once we make it a student-led resource, then there's huge costs associated with it, right? To record the teachers who are going to be teaching that. Well, we want to make sure that when the teachers record content, that it's gone through some iteration of refinement. And so that's why we'll give it to all of the parents for free, because we need you to use it. We need you to give us feedback. And for doing that, you'll receive it when it's a student-led resource. You'll receive it for much, much less. Maybe if we're charging $20 a student for the student-led experience, you'll have it for $5 a month, something like that. That's very likely what it will be.
Can I add a little bit to what you said, Peter?
Sure.
So
hi, Malia.
Hi, I'm one of the math writers, and it is a parent-led resource right now, but the way that we write the lesson is a conversation. And if a child can read and do well enough on their own, they could just read it and be able to do the lesson themselves, but it will not have the videos yet.
That's a really good point. So for readers, they could make the parent-led resource a student-led resource. Certainly not the case for most kindergartners, first graders, even second graders, but then in the third, fourth grade, as they're able to read, it is simple language because we want it to be simple for parents to be able to use as a parent resource. The reason the names, I master math, because mastery is the focus. It really is. It has to be. A great math program has to be founded on the philosophy of mastery, not on just completing a level and being done with it and moving on. So I master math makes sense in that brand.
I have a
lift language art.
question.
Yeah.
Is the math going to be taught to Common Core standards or not?
No, we haven't aligned to Common Core standards, but we know what they are. And a lot of times we'll say we cover everything that Common Core does plus a lot more. We just don't do it the way Common Core does. So the standards, I think what people don't like about Common Core is how they teach. It's not what they teach. Well, actually, it's what they teach too, in some cases. So the school isn't aligned with Common Core. We're not aligned with Common Core. But there's nothing that Common Core would cover from a skill standpoint that we don't cover, plus a lot more. Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's actually great.
Mm-hmm. I lift language arts, the brand there, and I've got to run, but the brand there important, very, very important to us, is that language is the way that, in speaking and thinking about this worldwide, language is the way that people lift themselves out of poverty, that families lift themselves and communities lift themselves out of poverty. It is through language that we lift ourselves and that we lift others and we lift communities. And we want to build a program that does that. And so affordability, accessibility, those are really, really important qualities of the language arts program. And that will be something that is very unique about our program. There are very few language arts programs that aren't for profit. In fact, I don't know of a language arts program that is. No, I do. That's not true. I do know of some nonprofit, some colleges have released some language arts program. BYU has one that they've released that is a language arts program that is decent. It's not an online, it's not a student-led program, but most programs are for profit. And I'm not putting down for profit. I'm just saying that there's things that you can't do when it's a for profit that you can do when it's nonprofit. And affordability and accessibility is really, really critical to us. And so the way that we design it will be designed so that it can lift communities, lift families, and lift individuals in ways that are really important to their development as children that need to be able to build the kingdom of God on earth in the latter days. And there are a lot of exciting things that have to do with that I don't have have the permission to share in that regard. But there's so much work that needs to happen, and language is going to be how we help these saints to do it, right? If they can't read, then they can't have a proper understanding of history, and certainly not of his story, or the scriptures, or math, right? And so that's an essential skill that's critical. I've got to run to another meeting that I have, but I'm going to let Afua share with you one last thing about parent volunteers, that we really, really need your help. And all of our parents here on campus, just know that it is a spirit of sacrifice, that we really need parents to help us in little ways, simple ways, and some in other meaningful ways that take a little bit more time. And she has a list of those things, and you can sign up as a parent volunteer. But thank you for being a part of our school community.
Will I be able to just send it to them?
Yeah, you could post the link right here. Just copy and paste the link, and then they could open it and they could answer that right there, Afua. That's a good idea.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, bye guys.
Oh, bye. What? Oh, we finished. Okay, bye.
Okay.
I was just wondering how long.
Oh, it doesn't need to be too long, but Molly's here, and Molly can answer a lot of the questions that they might have. And then I'll listen to this, and if there are questions that you're not able to answer to the level that you'd like to, or that you feel was needed, then I'll put it in another kind of an intro email or a recap and send to them.
Right.
Okay, bye now.
Thanks, Peter. Bye.
I have a question for either anyone on here who knows. Where did you get, because I already printed off the previous schedule, that was in units.
Yeah.
Where do I go to print schedule?
Everybody, if you're logged into your dashboard.
Yeah, I am.
Good, perfect. So on your dashboard over on the left-hand side in the navigation area, it says AHS Online. Click on that and it'll open up a new tab over on our website that has broader information. And once you're there, hover over Programs and Tuition. And click Family School K through 12.
Okay.
And now on that page, you're going to see a video with a mom sitting on a couch with her 2 children and below that, there's a button that says School Calendars. It's the top calendar. The bottom calendar, for some reason, still has like A and B schedule and things like that. The top, yeah, that's the one Peter showed at the very beginning of this meeting with the kind of pink and all of that.
Good. Okay. And it's the day by day instead of the unit by unit. So thank you. That's perfect.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Molly. Any more questions for Molly as she's here? She says she's the best of the best.
I've had a lot of questions, people asking where to find the supplemental course downloads, which is the material you'll be needing. So I think what is happening is a lot of people are using Safari, and our site does not load completely in Safari. So if you use Chrome, you will see that whenever you're on a course page, like, you click on a subject and then all the courses populate, and then you click on a course and it'll have a little introduction section, and then it'll have all the units, and the first unit is usually open showing all the lessons. If you look over to the right hand side of the page, you will see a whole section called Introduction, and in that section there are a lot of red interactive buttons. The bottom one says Supplemental Course Downloads. There's also one that says Materials and Prep List, one that says Recommended Readings. So on the course page, that is where you'll find all the materials needed for that course. Now, obviously the lessons themselves will also have all the material, but it will be lesson specific if you do it from the lesson part of it. Speaking of that, when you open up a lesson, like say the Dive Deep, which is what I always recommend because that's the whole lesson with all the experiments and everything like that. When you open up that lesson, over to the right-hand side, you'll see a little rectangle that's red, that's vertical, and it's placed all the way on the margin, and it says More, M-O-R-E, in capital letters. When you click on that, you will see that you can mark the lesson complete. You can skip to any section in the lesson. You will also be able to report an issue like a misspelled word or a link that's not working or a suggestion you have for that lesson, material that you think would be good to add in there. And you'll also notice when you're in the Dive Deep, you can open up sections within the lesson. There's a preparation section that again has all the materials that are needed for that lesson. At the very bottom, there's going to be the record and enrichment sections. Those are not open automatically. You have to open those and you'll see all sorts of additional information and family discussions and videos and all kinds of things that go with the lesson as well. So when you're in the Dive Deep, open all of the sections and you will be able to see all of the materials that are available. And you guys were kind of discussing a little bit what to do before you join the live Zoom, you know, whether to watch the video or just what to do. Myself personally, especially if I had older children, I would not only watch the 10-minute video or whatever video is going to be supplied, but I would dive deep in the lesson. I would look at all the rest of the sections. I would do assignments. You know, at the bottom, there are assignments according to age and activities they can do and all of that. That way, in my mind, they have learned that lesson. So they join the live class. Now they can talk about it. They can talk about what they learned. They can see additional videos. They can compete against each other with a Kahoot quiz. They can have that interaction and all of that. But for me to say my child learned this lesson, that's what I would do, is to at least open the Dive Deep version of the lesson and have them look through it if they're older, or look through it with them. If they're younger, the video is probably sufficient. They're going to need to repeat that course when they're older and can take in more information anyway. So any other questions?
Molly, is there differentiation between the elementary and the middle school and high school?
Yes, perfect. Good question. So for Power Hour, you'll notice there are two options. You can do the elementary, and you'll notice that in the description, it says K through 8. Then there's middle and high, and in the description for that, it says 7 through 12. So you'll notice 7th and 8th grade overlaps. So the reason for that is the elementary kids, they're going to meet with kids from 5 years old to like 12 or so, or 14 even. And you choose that. If you have a child who's 13 and you know they would love to be the smartest one in the class, they would love to be with younger kids, they would love it if the coach was talking to them in a more fundamental way, then put them in the elementary. But if you have a child that age in 7th or 8th grade, and they're really just going to want to be with older kids, then choose the middle high Power Hour, because those children will all be older, all the way up to 18. And the coach, when the coach is speaking, they're going to be addressing an older age group of kids. And the video that they watch will be a little bit more geared toward an understanding, you know, the verbiage and the way they talk and all of that's going to be geared toward older children.
Is that journal that you're talking about that isn't ready yet, is that going to have the same kind of handouts that are in the student handout thing that we could buy online, and the downloads that you're talking about? How similar are they?
Alpha, do you know? Because I don't know what's going to be in the journal. From what Peter has said, it sounds to me like just a place where they can record their thoughts. It's kind of like they would open it up and it would say the lessons and on the dates they're going to be on, all that. And they'll just have places for them to write and maybe prompts and things. This is just my guess, but I do not believe it will have all of the handouts. There are tons of handouts.
Yeah.
So those you can print yourself from the supplemental course downloads, or you can use the print store and you can get those. And those are available now for each of the courses that are being covered in Power Hour. You don't have to wait for the journal to get that, but I don't believe the journal will include those.
Yeah, it's just straightforward with the class and for your thoughts.
Can I ask a question about the options for the Power Hour time for the older class?
You bet.
When I had looked at it, I don't know, maybe a month ago, there was, you know, like the 9 o'clock time, and there was like a 1 o'clock time. And then I just looked this week and it was changed to 11 o'clock. Was that because there was like not enough people in the later class, or because like we're in a different time zone than Utah, so I was just trying to find something that wasn't right in the middle of some of our other things. But so is it just going to be those two times, the 9 and 11?
Well, so the times, I'm looking at it right now, and you're right, 9 and 11 show. That does not mean there's not a 1 o'clock class. What that probably means is the 1 o'clock class is full. But Afua, she knows better what class times are available. Do you know the answer to that?
Not for high school. Is this for high school or middle school?
Yeah, high school, middle.
Yeah, Pablo would know better for the
Oh, okay,
timing.
Pablo would know.
Yeah.
So
but-
I'm gonna go to the chat and I'm gonna put in Pablo's email address, if that works for people. Okay.
Okay, because I had signed up before and I had signed up for the 1 o'clock class, but then when I came in, like I said, just a couple days ago, it had bumped me down to the 11 o'clock. So that makes me think that maybe there weren't enough students.
That happens.
Maybe they changed that, so.
That happens, and that may very well be why they did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm about to put that in the chat. Just a second. Let me get back over to where you guys are. Okay, so this is Pablo's email address. This is Dr. Pablo. He's the one that also makes the science lessons. If you remember anatomy and physiology last year, that's Dr. Pablo. And yeah, as Alpha said, he's gonna know some specifics of that. Hopefully he will choose to send out a blanket email, or he and Peter will do something with more details so that he doesn't have to answer a million individual emails. Sometimes they're so busy answering individual things, and I am too, and all of that, that we don't have time to prepare like a big mass, this is what's going on. But that would be definitely something to include in that, is the power hour times and how they work, and when they go away, what does that mean? And if I get switched and all of that. I as a customer service person, that's kind of emails I like to see going out to people.
Can you tell me if the power hour coaches are going to be the same all year, depending on the time slot? I know last year it switched, at least the time slot that we were in switched between Nate and Jordan every other day. Is it going to be something similar to that this year, or will it be the same coach all year?
We're hoping that it'll be the same coach all year, as we've been hiring quite a few learning coaches. So just to have that consistency. And because there won't be teaching or coaching as many hours per day, there's more options so that we can have one coach per class who will stay at that. Unless obviously emergencies happen, then maybe somebody else would take that class, but just for that moment.
And can I just request that if someone else takes that, we would rather have someone else take that class so it still happens. Sometimes last year they got canceled and my kids would come in and say, oh, we're just going to watch a movie for the power hour today, or I was like, Mom, I'll volunteer to teach that class or something so that it could happen. Because the kids
Alpha loves hearing that. Don't you, Alpha? You love
I certainly do. Yeah, we won't be having cancellations, and even on my, sick bed, we will have it.
Yeah, I told Alpha I would even step in.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, knowing you're willing to do that, maybe Alpha can work something out with you.
Yeah, that's true. It'd be good to have your name down.
And so Molly, will you go back? I'm sorry to ask you to repeat, but I wasn't logged into the dashboard. Can you tell me where to find the year of supplements again, so I don't have to do it lesson by lesson?
Yes, you bet, absolutely. So when you're in your dashboard, click on courses and then like history, and then in history choose what is it, expansion in the Civil War they're covering for Power Hour this year, right? So open up the course, and then if you're in the right browser, to the right will be a whole section that says introduction, and it has things in red. If you're in Safari, you won't see it. Are you seeing that?
It's still trying to load. Okay, so it'll be clear at the bottom.
Well, no, it's not at the bottom. So when the course page loads, it has a little bit of a paragraph about the course, then it has the units, and unit 1 is open, it has some lessons. Over on the right-hand side, just in the same page at the same place, is an introduction section. It's like it's got its own, there's like a line, and then that's just over there when you're in the course page. You see it?
So I'm looking at it right now,
And it says, welcome and parent letter, acknowledgements and copyright, table of contents, recommended readings, materials and prep list, and supplemental course downloads.
Yes.
So it's all together, it's in bright red.
Yes, you're in the right spot. So click on supplemental course downloads and you will see it has handouts according to the age groups. It has manuals, it has flashcards, it has the other cards, timeline cards. And so that's where you're going to see everything that's needed for the course itself. And then it also, like you say, in the lessons, if you get in there and see that. And then there was another question on here. Let me see. That I can answer. Oh,
Can
sorry.
I ask,
My
if you
phone
go
is
to the chat, you'll see a link that has all of it compiled together that somebody put together. So you don't have to go from course to course. So just scroll up and you'll see a little link that's got a PDF.
And are these supplemental course downloads different than what will be in the student packet or binder that they were talking about? This is more additional stuff. So if we order this, it'll be more than what we would get in the binder.
That was
my
experience last year. Binder. If you're talking about the journal, no, it's not in the journal. But if you're talking about last year, what you did for the same course, there's nothing new this year. This is the course we're just covering up for Power Hour. Maybe I don't know your question. Sorry.
The binder that Peter was talking about, the journal for Power Hour.
No, it won't be in the journal. The handouts will not be in the journal.
Right. So if we choose to just order this, it'll be more than what we would get in the journal, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Would it be okay if I share with her what I ordered last year? And because I was new last year to it too. Would it be okay if I just said what I ordered and what I kind of learned? I don't know if that would help.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can put that information in the chat. Is everybody a member of our Facebook page? Because if you go to the Facebook group and post that, everybody would love it. You would be a hero. So
yeah, I don't think I'm on the Facebook chat, and it's really quick. Like basically I had at the time last year, I had a 4-year-old and I had a 1st grader. So I ordered the student handouts and the teacher handouts for all the subjects that we were doing for both I think I had a thinker and an observer. And so I ordered that. It came in a huge box all together, separated out by subject. And so each time I did a lesson, I could pull out what they needed from each of those for each of my kids. And so that was great for me to see what was my preschooler actually going to do and participate with and versus what my 1st grader was willing to do. So when I ordered this year, for me personally, I didn't order as much for my preschooler because she wasn't as engaged as I thought she would be. And I focused on just ordering for my 2nd grader. He's in I think the thinker category. So I ordered the teacher handouts and the student handouts from the store. And it already arrived. I just, I got my big box that had them separated out by subjects and they're all color coded. And so then what we did last year was we just got one of those big, huge 3-ring binders, the biggest one basically that you can get. And we put tabs in there. And so as my son would complete an assignment, it went behind the science tab, it went behind the history tab, it went behind the geography tab. And that binder just grew as we went. So by the end of the year, he had a binder that showed him, this is everything that you completed this year. And he decorated something that went in the front cover. So it gave ownership to him that was his. And then my daughter, my preschooler, just kind of came in and out as she was interested, and I would give her stuff to do, based on what she wanted to do to participate with us. So that was the stuff to order from the store. And then as far as like the materials, I think that's really kind of up to you as a parent, how deep you want to dive into it. Because last year they suggested a book for anatomy and physiology. I did not personally order that book, and we did perfectly fine. But some people did, and they read each of those chapters as they went. So I think you have to decide as a parent, how deep do you want to go and purchase materials based on that. I found everything I ordered from the store to be very valuable. And it was cheaper than I could ever print it out myself. Because they basically give it to you for cost. And so by the time you print it out on paper and the